So the next thing that I want to add is we can use the Cryptomatte pass from our laser geometry, and we want to separate out this mesh here in the center. So let's go ahead and let's bring in the Cryptomatte. Let's press R, and this is a laser geo Cryptomatte layer. Let's add this, and let's go ahead and add a Cryptomatte node to this, so we can separate out what we need. So like I mentioned, I will just hold down Control and select this in the middle here, and now we have an alpha for this mesh here in the center. So let's drop down a shuffle node, and if I grab this alpha node and hold down Alt, I can connect this to all of the other nodes here. So now we also have RGB layers for this area over here. And what I want to do with this layer is I just want to create like a simple flare for our lasers. So from here I will drop down a glint node, and we will hook this up, and let's increase the number of rays here. Let's maybe use 6. Let's maybe increase the length and maybe the steps a little bit, and I'll just play around with the aspect ratio a little bit, and this odd ray length option here. And let's leave this as it is for now, I believe, and let's drop down a blur node. So I'll just press B to drop down a blur node, point back to our shuffle. Let's just stretch this vertically, or rather horizontally. So I want to scale this on each side differently, so I'll just press these two here, and I'll just increase the first value here, and maybe from here I'll drop down a grade node and just increase the gamma and the gain here, and drop down another blur. And let's repeat this process a little bit, a few more times. Okay, and let's merge these now, and let's set this operation to plus. Let's drop down a grade and make this blue. So let's go to the multiply, and I'll just make this this bluish tone, and I will drop down an AP glow, and let's decrease this source white, and maybe I'll leave the response as it is, and I'll increase the persistence. Okay, I think this will look fine for now. Let's maybe just place this on top of everything. So drop down a merge. Let's bring this actually over here. Drop down a merge, and just connect this to our main chain. Okay, so let's set this operation to plus, and we have just a very simple flare coming from all of these lasers. Maybe let's adjust this glint a little bit. I think this is a little bit too much, so let's decrease the length. We can also try out different settings here, so maybe I'll increase the number of rays to 8. And after the blur here, we can drop down another grade node, and maybe I'll increase the contrast a little bit. And you can play around with the settings for these nodes and find something you like. But the cool thing here is that this is only going to, this flare will only work on the laser pointers that can be seen in the scene. So we see that there's a laser pointer over here for this mesh as well, but since this is obscured by the geometry, this won't take effect, so we will only have this. And what's cool about this is that if I preview some of these frames, so if I use the arrow keys to navigate, you can see that as soon as this gets obscured by this geometry, we also lose the flare as well. Okay, so we can see here. So this will create kind of a more natural look, and just add a little bit more realism. Of course, you can add some custom flares to this, or spend a little bit more time to actually create like a nice flare. But I think this is good enough for like a base flare and to illustrate my point. So let's leave this as it is for now and continue with our chain. And the next thing that I want to add is going to be the smoke coming from the helmet. So let's press R, let's go up, let's bring in the smoke. And this will be very simple. We will simply just merge this on top and use the add operation here. And this will just need a little bit of color correction, so I'll just drop down a grade. Let's go to the multiply, and I'll make this a little bit blue as well to match the rest of our elements. And maybe actually let's drop down another grade here. So the first grade we will use to control the luminance. So maybe I'll just decrease the gamma a little bit and increase the gain to something like this. And maybe this is a little bit too much blue. Okay, so let's leave this as it is for now. We have our element set here, so that's fine. So now we will have to bring in our actual rays. So let's go ahead and bring in our rays. And from here I can just merge this on top of everything and see how this will look. Okay, so if I set this to plus, it's looking pretty good. Let's drop down a grade here, and let's drop down the gain quite a bit, maybe the gamma as well. Alright, so I will leave this as it is for now, and finally we will have to take care of our fog. So for the fog, let's bring this in. So let's bring in the fog, and we will first merge this on top of everything. So again, let's place this in our main chain, and I'll set this to plus. And the first thing here is I'll drop down a grade node for the fog, and I just want to maybe make this really transparent. So I'll just bring down the gain here quite a bit, just until we have like this subtle layer of fog. And what I want to do is I want to create a new layer that combines the volumetric rays. So this layer we will combine with our fog. So let's bring this over to the side maybe, and let's organize things a little bit. So here we just have the simple, very transparent fog. And let's go ahead and again, let's maybe organize the scene a little bit. So here we have our simple rays, and I'll bring this down maybe a little bit. So we will grab our rays, and we want to drop down an AP glow from here. And with this AP glow, we can see that by default we get a really nice result. So let's crop this. Let's make sure that this is cropped so we don't get any flickering going on. And let's leave this as it is for now, and also drop down a blur and maybe increase the blur a little bit for this as well. So if I drop down a multiply and I multiply this with my fog, and I drop down a merge and I will set the operation here to multiply, we can kind of see what happens here. So if I drop down a grade for my fog and increase the contrast by decreasing the gamma and increasing the gain, hopefully you can kind of see what kind of layer that I'm trying to create here. Let's go back here and let's play around with some of these AP glow settings here. So I'll just increase the persistence and maybe decrease the response. And maybe also let's increase the blur value here. And so we can see what kind of layer we are creating. Let's maybe go to the blur here and let's increase this even more, something like this. And maybe I'll drop down a grade here as well and just turn this off. I mean, make this a little bit darker, so decrease the gain. And also let's maybe drop down a saturation and just decrease the saturation a little bit. So we end up with a layer that's something like this. So we can see now that wherever we have rays, we will also bring in a little bit more fog around that area. So if from this layer I merge this on top of everything, let's see our result. So I'll set this to plus. And we can see that as I turn this on and off, we have glow that's right around the area of our rays. Okay, and we can go ahead and for my simple fog here, let's maybe preview the final result, and I will decrease the grade even further for this ambient glow. Okay, so now we finally have all of our layers, and we can go ahead and go right to the top of our scene, and we can start making some adjustments.